So, speaking of medical negligence, the nonchalance of government, we're talking about Mobad, for instance, where the story surrounding his death and his burial, we just learned also that the nurse, that's part of what we're going to talk about
Yes.
sometime later. The issue of medical negligence right now is this issue, yes, the panel of investigation on this, yeah, they are crying out. But should we just put the blame solely on government when it comes to medical negligence? Yes, the government is not doing enough to ensure that the healthcare sector is what it should be. Put that again on the side by asking yourself, is that the reason why a little boy's intestine will be missing? Is that the reason why someone who is not a nurse will come into a hospital and inject someone? Is that the reason why someone who is not a medical doctor will be carrying out surgeries and taking people's vital organs for years? Should we begin to look at the Nigerian Medical Association as a system that actually needs a total overhauling?
Yes, apparently, not just the Nigerian Medical Association, all of our professional bodies and organizations, I think we really need to be true to the fact that we have a responsibility to perform our duties professionally. But for the cause of what we're discussing, when life is involved, and that's how and why the medical system is very important, crucial in discussing all of this, because such negligence, like I stated earlier, could lead to death, outright death, or deformation, or other forms of permanent disability, and this is completely irreparable in most cases. And that's why, to the extreme, that medical practitioners and every person who works in the medical system or medical sector would have to be really diligent and professional in all that you're doing. And then the issue of medical negligence is the reason you have, if you like, the thought of negligence, but that's the legal aspect of it. That if any person that has a duty to perform, right, fails to perform that duty diligently and causes injury, and injury here in law is not just about the physical court or that causes any loss, whether of life or disability or even loss of pecuniary interest, any injury to the victim of that receiver, the receiver of that duty that you're supposed to perform, then you're liable. You're liable in damages to that person. It is in our system here that we really do not seem to largely enforce medical negligence. So, like you stated,
So is
I
it,
have had my
agree.
niece has died
Oh, yeah.
in circumstances that are apparently negligent. And the government, that's the health center
I
at Otaki or so.
personally have
Yes.
been a victim of the medical negligence in this country, where an injection that wasn't checked if it worked for my body or not. They kept injecting. I was dying, and they kept doing this. If not for divine intervention,
lucky
I
that you
won't be
survived it.
sitting down here
Exactly.
having this conversation. And this is just one out of so many. That's why I asked you.
I believe
should we
every
begin
family
to-
has an example of a victim
Yes.
of medical negligence,
Yes.
either alive and disabled or deformed
Because-
or dead
Yeah.
already.
Because if the husband of the lady whose organ was taken off did not find out, it wasn't the hospitals that discovered. It wasn't like the medical association. If he didn't
That's the
speak up,
problem.
when she was sick, if he didn't, I took her to the hospital. If he hadn't spoken up, we'll not be having this conversation with that doctor and what is called his group. They will continue to carry out this same missing organ in the name of surgery and selling them and organ harvesting and all of that. So right now, we have lost this 12-year-old boy. The government wasn't as responsive as it should. The medical association, they are the ones now tearing themselves apart and all of that. But if there was a mechanism to check the excesses, like I talked about the doctor somewhere in the north who harvests people's organs, who is not even a medical doctor again, if the Nigerian Medical Association should stand up and begin to check their system, do you think it will help to cut down the number of medical negligence that we experience in Nigeria?
Certainly will. I think it will start from fighting the scourge of quackery That's unqualified practitioners, or unqualified persons, or persons who are not even trained at all, performing those duties and functions of medical practitioners. That's number one. And so it's because this kind of activity or behavior is usually carried out in secret. So it will require the medical association to be very strategic in first beginning to ensure that there is no quackery, if you like, or to as much as possible reduce that incident in medical practice in this country. Then secondly is to continue the regulating body, to continue to ensure that professionalism is maintained in carrying out their duties, and then to ensure that sometimes it's not about not being a medical practitioner, but probably not being quite up to date with the improvement in that sector of medicine. And then that's very important in all professions, really. And that's very important because when you are not applying the appropriate, what leads to medical negligence may also not, may not always be a case of the medical practitioner not being one trained, right? Or maybe one who is completely ignorant with that kind of behavior. Then another is being, if you like, not being diligent. Yes, you are trained in that sector. You probably have the knowledge, but you were not careful. That duty of care, right, was not performed by you. Because negligence, the concept of the thought of negligence is about having a duty to perform and failing to perform the duty. Or performing that duty, but with less of care and concern. So when medical practitioners no longer pay attention to that very important aspect of care, right, of their patient, but probably you just want to hurry and do things, it is the money thing, you understand? You will get to this point. And again, what about the status of the medical practitioners themselves? What about the facilities? So sometimes these things happen, the negligence will happen as a result of failure of equipment. So it's still part of negligence. How proficient and how diligent were you to actually check the effectiveness or efficiency of those equipment and materials that you want to go use? So, like assuming a team of surgeons want to go into the theater, and then you should be able to at least approximate how long that operation is going to take place. And then the sources of power, and then other equipment. Because sometimes we have had cases where, it was power failure. And then before they will be able to resuscitate and rearrange, the person is gone. Or sometimes probably some equipment or material used for surgery left in someone's... my elder sister is suffering some kind of condition up to this moment as a result of surgery. So these are very important. I just said here that I lost a niece negligently in a government health center. So these issues are really there. But I think for me, I'm not a doctor, but in fair understanding of what the thought of negligence is, and then, of course, also having relatives who are victims of this kind of medical negligence. I think that the Nigerian Medical Association, and then particularly their own professional organization, that's Dental and Medical Practitioners Council of Nigeria, should be able to get into this issue of eliminating, or if you like, reducing the number of quackery, and then untrained personnel, just like when we get to the next story, like you said, how do you monitor this? And then to also ensure that those who are trained and then are performing these medical duties and functions should be able to pay attention to the duty of care, and then, of course, diligence in carrying out their duties. Not all the times that it's just about the money, or all the times about wanting to be quick in terms of the number of patients you want to attend to. What happens in some of these facilities? The matter of trying to meet up with the numbers, because it's purely business. Business in the sense that you want turnover, you want more patients to be done and all of that. Maybe you have a line of patients to be attended to, and then the theater and all of that. So you're just hurrying. But most importantly, also cutting costs. You find out where today, if you go to most of our public dispensaries, or if you like, where you call the pharmacies and chemists, the young ladies and young men you find there, have you asked what training they have? And this is somebody who is administering drugs to you. Even if you came with a prescription from a doctor, right? But does this person actually even know what these indications on that prescription are? Or is the person giving you the right dosage? You go to some of these private hospitals, and then these people that are bringing some needle and piercing in you, that in the form of injecting you, are they actually treating you or getting you closer to death? And these things happen. Before you know, they say, oh, the doctor was not around. He probably went consulting somewhere. And then by the time you come, one nurse has performed something that you probably can't even repair. Some of this, the result of this medical negligence could be irreparable. Permanent disability, deformity, and death, absolutely.
Yeah.
And most of them are avoidable, simply avoidable. Someone presents, in fact, not even just that. What about the other aspect of completely neglecting the patient that has been brought in a condition that needed attention at that time? I've had a situation where a colleague, in fact, my colleague in the office, right, that works with me, had his wife presented before a private facility. She was pregnant and had 2 babies in her. And already the private facility had actually diagnosed and seen that, look, one of these features is dead already and has to be removed for the others to survive. And referred this lady to the government facility. Today, the River State University Teaching Hospital. University Teaching Hospital. And then this lady was admitted with that condition, with that reference. By virtue of that reference alone, that matter ought to be a matter of urgency and emergency. By virtue of that reference alone, because there's already a dead fetus in the body, and then one was alive. But I tell you there, this lady was kept unattended for almost a week. It was until a consultant came around and saw the file of this lady and screamed, "Ah, you people are, prepare the theater, prepare the theater." Yes, they got to the theater. They were able to bring out the surgery, but the baby couldn't survive. They brought the baby out. In fact, when he told me the weight of whatever was brought out as the decomposed body of the other one that had died, right? You can't lift the weight of whatever was brought out. So this woman was carrying or was bearing that weight with the other one, and in that hospital for almost a week before she was taken into the theater. And then when the living one was brought out, perhaps because of the condition that one has gone through, the baby couldn't survive more than hours. But the young man had costs to run already, because when they brought the baby out, the fact that the baby was alive, they had to take the baby to incubator. He has to pay for oxygen. He has to. So you spend money that first. In fact, I knew that it was about 70,000 naira in the first place. But at the end of the day, he still lost that baby. We thank God for the life of the woman. That is another incident, another case of medical negligence. You have seen someone that has presented with a critical condition to the hospital, but no attention. I'm not sure this is the oath they actually undertook to attend and care for patients, saving life first. So it's a pathetic one. It's unfortunate. I think that the government should look more into this without being, if you like, without being supportive or protective of the public institution, that is the Lagos State University Hospital, or whoever is involved that was negligent. If truly the films of the X-ray show that the missing intestine was there at the time the X-ray was carried out at the University Teaching Hospital, right? Then the private hospital cannot be held liable for the missing intestine. If there was another form of negligence, it should be that. I am not making any form of verdict here, but given the condition, given the statement already reported, that if truly there was this X-ray that was carried out at the public facility, and then showed that the said missing intestine showed on that film of that X-ray, then of course we should know where we should trace the missing intestine. And look at what we're talking about: missing organ, missing intestine of a human being. So everything is being stolen right now in this country. We are not satisfied with stealing money. We are not satisfied with diverting palliatives. We are not satisfied with stealing the mandate of the people. We are not okay with stealing votes. We are stealing organs of patients in the hospital. It's unfortunate.